Hello everyone, welcome back. So now you see what the Green Challenges sessions are like, and there'll be 2 more of those chaired by Michele also tomorrow and Thursday, when 7 more teams will present their projects. And then, as Michele said, the last session of the Green Challenges will be an interactive session between the teams. So it's for the teams to interact together and capture the learnings from the experience and the whole initiative of the Green Challenges. So now we move to our next session, which is our first best practices session. And as I said earlier, we thought Trinity should put the foot forward and take up the first slot for this. And so you've met Michele already, so I'm delighted now to introduce Michele as the presenter of Trinity's example of an approach that has been successful for us that others might want to learn from. And so the presentation is called Engagement with Purpose, using a bottom-up approach to drive policy. So it's a real pleasure to introduce Michele a bit more fully now. She's been a core part of the UNI-ECO team here, and her role in the university is a key one as sustainability advisor, and she's attached to the Provost, our president's office, in doing that. And since she joined Trinity, she's made a huge difference in all of our sustainability activity and initiatives, and particularly connecting students and staff and building a networked community, which has been so valuable. But also she's been involved in other ways in really everything that's going on in sustainability. She has built and delivers the e-learning module that you'll hear about tomorrow. She is a permaculture designer, as I said before, and she's an LEAD auditor on international environmental standards. So I'm delighted to hand over to Michele for this presentation, Engagement with Purpose, using a bottom-up approach to drive policy. And maybe while Michele is starting to get ready I forgot to say, to remind you that the session is being recorded. All the sessions are being recorded. And I believe our comms department, our communications department, are streaming them live on YouTube. So over to you, Michele.
Thanks, Paula. I just got an update a couple of minutes ago that we are not streaming on live on YouTube.
Oh.
Unfortunately, anyway, so I won't go into the details, but we're not.
But the recordings will be shared after the summer school with anybody who wasn't able to attend any particular session. So they will be kept and as a record, and we will make sure we share them, even though they're not live streaming. They'll go up on the UNI-ECO YouTube channel.
Excellent. That's wonderful news. Thank you.
Great.
So I'll just share my screen here. So let's see. Just move this. There we go. So I hope you can all see my slides. As Paula said, this is about engagement with purpose, using a bottom-up approach to drive policy. And this is just one of the best practices that we have decided to share from Trinity College. So the context for this, which is really based on communication and engagement around sustainability, is the phrase, if you don't know, you can't care. So if we don't know that something's going on in the world, we can't care about it. And if we can't care about it, we can't change our behaviors and our values to align with how we really want things to be. So our communication, of course, is essential for raising awareness of the challenges that we all face, facing this climate crisis and the biodiversity crisis, which has become even more important now with the recent flooding events in North Europe. It's about inviting participation from all members of our community. So making this open, throwing the net wide open to everybody at the university to say, you have a part to play in this, and we want you to engage and we want you to communicate with us about it. It's also about making the biodiversity and climate crises personal. Again, if people don't relate to it, then they can't really get involved in it. They're not going to pick up the mantle and join us in taking actions to address these crises. It's about translating the complexity of these crises into digestible pieces, because these are very complex topics. And I know personally a lot of friends of mine, they can't look at it. They can't look at what's going on because it's too distressing, it's too big, and it's too complex to try and digest it. So our purpose in the communication piece is to break it down into small pieces so we can hand somebody a little piece of information without terrifying them, and also hand them solutions. And lastly, we're all based in universities. We have some of the brightest and most intelligent minds in the world. And it's important for us to harvest that brilliance, that innovation, that creativity, and that intelligence from everybody. So we invite as many people to get involved so we can draw on as many brilliant minds as possible to create the best collaborative solutions as soon as we possibly can. There was a great book written back in, I think it was 2007, by Malcolm Gladwell, who's an internationally renowned best-selling author of many books. And in The Tipping Point, he established, based on data that he had researched for a couple of years, that only 5% of any population is needed to create a cultural tipping point. Now, what this means is you create a trend, if you like. So in order to make sustainability trendy, or to get people engaged in it, we only need to engage 5% of the population. We do not have to have everybody on board. And this to me was incredibly good news, to realize that all we need is 5%, which is a small amount. And that way we can actually change the culture in a society or in a population about things like sustainability and the climate crises. So back in 2016, this was the outline of our sustainability governance structure at Trinity. And you can see at the top there, we have the college board, and underneath that, the executive officers group, which would approve policies and plans. They would feed that up to the college board, and then college board would adopt those policies and plans. At the bottom then, on the ground level, there was other activity happening in relation to sustainability. So we have a Green Campus Committee that was established in 2013. And there's also a Student Environmental Society. So there was lots of groundwork happening, but there was no communication really going on between the upper level activities and the ground level activities. So if we look at the governance structure now, this year, 2021, we filled in that gap, and as far back as 2017. So the Provost established an advisory committee on sustainability in 2017, and I'll go into more detail on that in the next few slides. We also established staff sustainability networks and student sustainability network down at the bottom, which kind of feeds into the Green Campus Committee. And the Green Campus Committee is a group of over 200 staff and students who come together on a monthly basis to enact sustainability activities, to implement policies, to come up with ideas that will further the sustainability journey at Trinity. And within the Provost Advisory Committee also, we've established groups that work on specific topics. So we've established a sustainable procurement working group and a climate action team, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. So for the purposes of this presentation, I'm going to focus on the area within the green box, because I don't interact very much with the people above that box. Trinity has sustainability commitments in 9 different areas, and these are portrayed here on the slide in front of you. We have these 9 different action areas up on our Green Pages website, and these also form the structure for our reporting in our annual sustainability report. In September last year, we established a Green Campus Committee subcommittee for each topic on that previous slide. So each of these topics has a subcommittee now actively working on each of these areas. We've got over 100 people involved, and interestingly, more than 98% of the people involved are female. I'll leave that there. I'm not going to go into the detail. That would make for a very interesting study on its own. So some of the projects, just to give you a taste of what these groups are working on. Biodiversity Subcommittee is involved in the Campus Biodiversity Audit, which is a year-long project. And this is auditing all the different ecosystems and habitats on campus with the promise of making a map to show what is living where. Our communications subcommittee is absolutely essential. They run the social media for sustainability at Trinity, and they also liaise with other subcommittees to publicise or communicate out about activities that are taking place in the other subcommittees. The waste subcommittee runs awareness campaigns on waste reduction and reuse. The consumption procurement subcommittees work together and they're involved in reducing throwaway items or disposable items. And the events committee help organise our annual Green Week event, which next year will be the 20th anniversary of the first annual Green Week event that will take place. The education subcommittee is working on supports for students in direct provision. These are students who have come from difficult circumstances. They've probably arrived in Ireland as refugees, and there's a particular way for them to access third level education. So that subcommittee is helping to support them navigate that way into third level education. So like I said, we launched the Sustainability Networks in 2018, and this was an essential piece of the communication strategy. We meet on a regular basis. So we have 2 separate sustainability communication networks. One is for staff only, and we provided 2 separate platforms because we really wanted staff to be able to come together, collaborate with each other, interact with each other, and find out how each of their offices might be addressing different sustainability actions. And then the Student Sustainability Network receives an email about once or twice a month. And both communication outlets receive regular emails about funding opportunities, advancements in sustainability at Trinity, and also things that they can get involved in. Our social media is run by the subcommittee, the communication subcommittee, which comprises students and staff. And their job is to spread the word on actions at Trinity, but also to inform people about what's going on in the world or in Ireland, so we can keep track of sustainability initiatives in many places. And you can see at the bottom there, we've got some images from our Instagram and Facebook page. So the website, we have a website dedicated entirely to sustainability, which is called the Green Pages. This was established before I came to Trinity, and we did a big update on it in 2017, and it is now updated annually. So we keep up to date with all the information that is changing. It's located on Trinity's homepage, so it's very high profile. As soon as you go to Trinity's homepage, you'll see sustainability right in the middle of the center of the webpage, and that will bring you directly to these green pages. On the homepage, we have sustainability guides. So at the bottom there in the middle, we have this link brings you through to 4 different guides, one directed at staff, one directed at students, one directed at residents who live at Trinity, and one for waste. So our goal is that we give people as much information as they need up front. We also have current highlights. So you can see here the UNI-ECO Summer School is highlighted on the front page, and we usually have 4 or 5 highlights that the tiles just roll over. And then we have a calendar here. It's very quiet at the moment because it is summer, but that calendar gets very busy once we go back into term. And this webpage is accessible to the public, so anybody, any of you guys can come and watch that. And maybe Gaia could put the link in for that, for the green pages, into the chat function. So as I said before, we have an annual sustainability report that goes out every year since 2016. And this is located under the Our Approach button on the homepage of the green pages, and it brings people directly to this mini index here, which shows you the sustainability reports. So we have 3 of the most recent reports are up there, including the 2020 report. Again, we publish this on the website because we want staff and students to have access to the information. We've got all the data in there for our energy, our water, our waste, biodiversity, transport, you name it, it's all in there, because we really want staff and students to scrutinize these documents and start asking questions about them. So it's important for us to be able to communicate that really clearly. The Provost Advisory Committee on Sustainability meets 2 to 3 times per year. And you can see from the picture below there, we have staff and students involved. In fact, we've got 4 students who sit on the advisory committee. This is chaired by the Provost and the Registrar, so it is kept at a high profile. And as you can imagine, the Provost and the Registrar would feed into they have direct links with the Executive Officers Group, so they can bring any recommendations from this committee directly to that higher administration. So this committee sets priorities for Trinity's sustainability journey, and it establishes working groups, like I said before, the Green Procurement Group, which worked on a sustainable procurement policy back in 2019. We published that in October 2020, I think it was, yeah. So that went out with a set of guidelines, and it was really important that we communicated the guidelines for this policy, because it's one thing to create a policy and say, hey, Trinity's going to do all these wonderful things. We could print it out, we could stick it on a wall, and then nobody would know anything about it. So we had to implement the guidelines alongside the policy to give explanation to people about what that was going to mean in their jobs. So this was geared specifically towards staff. The second working group we've established in recent years is the Climate Action Team. And we got together earlier this year. Just 2 weeks ago, hot off the press, we have a climate action plan for Trinity now, which has 16 actions, and that's going to take us forward into the future. And then this committee also manages the Sustainability Fund. So there's a review committee that is created from this Committee on Sustainability that will look at all the projects coming in. And I will talk about that right now. So the Sustainability Fund, which was established by the Provost in 2018, was created to finance great sustainability ideas. So we're fully aware that, you know, we could be talking in an echo chamber. So we could be talking to each other, thinking everybody knows about sustainability. But the reality is, we know that out of the 23,000 people at Trinity between staff and students, maybe 1% of our staff and students might know something about sustainability or about the activities that Trinity is taking. So we felt that this would be a great communication tool to put the word out there that sustainability is being worked on at Trinity, but also to offer financing to students and staff for great ideas that they would have to drive forward our sustainability journey. So to date, we've had 53 applications. We do about 2 announcements each year. And there's been a total of over 101,000 euros has been requested to finance these ideas. There's 19 projects got funded. So these projects go to a review committee. The committee looks at all the projects and it decides, we think this is workable, we think this is a good one. And so we've chosen 19 projects to date, and that has allocated over 25,000 euros to those projects. And at the moment, we've had 11 projects kicked off. So far, we've only spent 7,300 euros. So it might seem like a huge amount up front. My gosh, are we committing 100,000 euros? But no, when you whittle it down, 11 projects kicked off so far, and we've got another 5 waiting to get started. And that graph there will show you that I think our communication has worked, because this year we got applications for just over 56,000 euros were requested. So we're very happy with that. And we have funded this year, the yellow bar, we funded just over 12,000 euros worth of projects. So those projects have to be kicked off yet. So the bonus of all of this is that the fund has really helped to raise the awareness of sustainability at Trinity and to raise awareness of resource efficiency. If people realize that Trinity is already working on these issues, on water consumption, on energy consumption, on carbon footprint, then it gives people permission to get involved as well. And they think, oh, well, if the upper management people are getting involved in this, I certainly want to be involved in this too. And it gives students and staff the sense that they are empowered to do something. They can contribute to this journey, and they're very much a very welcome part of it. One of the key pieces of our communication strategy is working very closely with the Communications Office at Trinity. And in fact, the Communications Office, based on the past couple of years of work and activities and actions on sustainability, has made sustainability one of their key priorities, one of their 3 key priorities for communications at Trinity. And this graphic here will show you the 3 areas that they are focused on related to sustainability. So under sustainability research, we have research linked to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. Under student activism, they communicate out about things like societies, student innovators, entrepreneurship, and they promote any successes that they come across. And then with regard to Trinity's physical campus, they very much focus on the campus sustainability. So that would be the infrastructure, the utilities, the energy, the water, the waste, the consumption, the procurement. So all of that is factored in, as well as biodiversity. And that seems to be a very popular topic at Trinity. And we're very, very fortunate to have Katie Byrne, our Senior Executive Officer at the Communications Office, on board. She's an absolute star to work with, and she has done so much to promote sustainability within Trinity. So now I'm going to move on to a very unusual communication tool that we have, which we came across in 2018. So if you see the bottom right-hand corner here, I've got the link to One Step Closer. This is an external consultant to Trinity. It's a fantastic platform. I've worked alongside Joanne for the past 3 years now, and we've conducted a wide range of voting campaigns. So this is just a little selection of what has happened over the previous 3 years, but not the full story. We've actually conducted 14 campaigns in total. You can see on the left here, these are some of the highlight voting campaigns that we've conducted, and I'll tell you a little bit more about some of those. So how the campaign works, each voting campaign we create, there's a platform created by One Step Closer on their website, and you can see the image of it here. This is how it shows up when people click into the link. So with the Communications Office at Trinity, we do a big, huge push out asking people to vote. So sending the link out on all our social media outlets, including LinkedIn, Instagram, sometimes TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, all of them. We also sometimes publish it through our email newsletters. So the Staff Sustainability Network, the Student Sustainability Network, the Green Campus Committee, and sometimes we send emails out to the entire population at Trinity. So once people have this link here, which you can see right here, vote at one step closer. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna go back for a second. I clicked too soon. So once people go to that link, they're greeted with a platform that looks like this, and they're invited to click into each of these items. So we usually use a choice of 3 or 6 items. And by clicking into this, they will read a little piece, not too much, just a digestible little piece of information about each of these labs. This was a Green Labs vote. We were asking people to vote on which lab they wanted to get funded to get green certification with an international organization. So by clicking into each of these choices, they will read a little piece, a digestible piece about the topic, and that is the educational component of the vote. So the bonus is that we actually put up choices that we are willing to deliver on. So if somebody chooses whatever lab they chose within this campaign, we were ready to issue the certification funding to that lab. Over the past 3 years, we've had 14 direct engagement campaigns using this platform. Over 31,000 students and staff have taken part in the votes, and the engagement rate is off the charts. Anybody who works in social media will tell you that traditional engagement from social media should be about 1 to 2% if you're doing really, really well. We've gotten engagement rates of 10 to 22% from these engagement campaigns, so they are extremely valuable, and we've seen the value of it. We've seen the awareness level at Trinity has incrementally increased year after year. So this was the result of the Green Lab vote. Just to continue with the example I started with, we had almost 2,000 votes, and you can see the winner at the top here was the Cocker Laboratory, which is the School of Chemistry Teaching Lab, and we're very happy that got the vote because they have about 400 students go through their lab every year, so they'll be very much influenced by the Green Labs programme. Another example of the voting campaigns we've done is to replace a meat dish with a vegetarian dish. So this was at our catering department. We lined up 3 meat dishes here, and we said, here are your options. You can choose whichever vegetarian one you want. These voting campaigns are also aligned with one of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and this one was for responsible consumption and production. So here is the result. You can see that more than half the votes went for vegetarian lasagna, and it really surprised the catering department that we sold out within 2 hours, the first day that they put that vegetarian offering on. So with that has had a knock-on effect, a ripple effect within the catering department, that they now continue to invent vegan and vegetarian dishes, and they're making one of their catering locations entirely vegetarian as of September. And just on the right here, this image, this is what shows up on some of the, this would show up on Instagram, for example, and then there's a QR code. People can click into that and go directly to the voting platform. The last example I'm going to share with you is the biggest one that we've had. It's been a massive success. We have Trinity's front lawn. This is the front of Trinity here. And these buildings in the background, this is the city centre of Dublin. So the Trinity is facing directly into the heart of Dublin. And we had a lawn here for 150 years. And as you probably know, lawns do not support any kind of biodiversity. They offer no food, they offer no habitat. So we decided to put a vote out, not only to staff and students, but also to the public for the first time, because we felt it was important that the public would have say in this, because so millions of people walk past in normal times. A couple of million people could be walking past the front gates of Trinity any week of the year. So we felt that the public had to have a say in this, because if they didn't want to see this changed, it would be very unpopular and we might be faced with having to dig up the wildflowers again. So we held the vote in just before the pandemic, actually, in 2020, with almost 14,000 votes cast, which is a huge, huge success. 90% exactly of those votes said yes, they would love to see wildflowers. So we converted it. You can see the picture here at the bottom. This was taken just a few weeks ago. And these flowers bloom from March all the way through to October. The story was actually picked up by international news sites, and then other groups within Dublin have now followed suit and are converting lawns over to wildflowers. So this has been a big ripple effect in terms of a communication campaign. So just to give you a few of the outcomes, communication and engagement has really been made a priority in the past few years. And we've noticed that the waste figures dropped 2% over the past 2 years. And we genuinely believe that this is a result of all the communication and engagement we have done throughout those past few years, because the previous year's trends, we're seeing waste going up and up and up. And the past 2 years, it has started to come down. There are more staff and students getting in touch with our dedicated email, sustainability@tcd.ie, to make inquiries. So we believe that also shows a trend of people becoming more aware. So maybe our information campaigns are actually working well. And then the voting platforms, of course, are just the most brilliant way to provide democratic decision making, because like I said, any choice that we offer, we are willing to deliver on that. So staff and students get to decide what happens. Some of our future plans for sustainability, and this is my last slide. We have a climate action plan in draft format, which we hope will be approved by College Board in September. There has been a new position created at Trinity for Vice President of Biodiversity and Climate Action, and we're very much looking forward to that role taking up in January 1st. There will also be an Office of Sustainability established next year with full-time roles resourced and created. And our plan is to have each faculty at Trinity, the 3 faculties at Trinity, will have a sustainability lead dedicated to sustainability issues within their faculty. So that's it for me. Thank you for your attention, and I will stop sharing my screen.
Wonderful. Thanks, Michele. That's really fantastic. Now we're going to have some time for questions. And so please, everybody, put your questions into the chat and I'll convey them through to Michele. But while that's happening, Michele, maybe I'll just comment a little bit on a few things, which, I think that your presentation was really brilliant. And I suppose there's a number of different ingredients to what has worked. And one is the networking, enabling, and the communications hand in hand with that, enabling the bottom up. And it was really, I suppose, joining together a lot of passionate people that were out there waiting to have these opportunities. And then the other element of it is the governance, creating a conduit, up to board, and really bringing it to the attention of our board members that this is something our community want. It's something we not only just want, we have an imperative to do this. And just to mention about the sustainability reports that Michele mentioned, yes, it's great for disseminating to everyone, but first and foremost, these board reports go to board, and it reports on what our targets are, how we're doing with them, are we meeting them? If we're not meeting them, why we're not meeting them? So it gets scrutiny at board, and that report is approved by board before it's disseminated. So it's really linking in. And it's fantastic to hear the new plans for, creating even more, even better structures to have this connection across college levels. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, it's very much about joining up the different silos. It's very easy for groups to operate in isolation, especially within such a large organization. I think that's true of any university or any large institution. So creating those communication pathways and those cross-pollinating good ideas between different groups is essential.
We have a question in from Sarah Austin, who's asking how she can get involved in the Green Campus Committee. And I know you're ready with an answer to that one.
Oh, yeah. So Sarah, that's great. If you want to email me, I'll put a link in the chat where you can actually go and sign up for the Green Campus Committee, but we'd be delighted to have anybody's welcome to join. So thank you very much.
Great. Well, I don't see any other questions coming in at the moment. Please don't hesitate. I suppose I was thinking about the difficulties and challenges, and it's great to give the success, but there's also the difficulties that have to be overcome. And I'm sure there isn't a quick answer to this. And also the plans for the future are addressing some of those. But I wonder if you want to say a little bit about difficulties and challenges that you've encountered.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges, Paula, is the amount of communication that people are hit with every day. We're getting so much communication in terms of email, text, social media, and so it's hard to kind of stand up and yell loud enough or shout loud enough to be heard in all of that communication. So one of the challenges really is how can we become very creative and innovative in terms of how we reach out to people, and how can we make it really attractive? Because the challenge, of course, is that nobody really wants to know about few people want to know about the climate crisis and the biodiversity crisis because it is devastating. It's emotionally difficult for us to process that. And so how do we communicate about a very difficult and complex subject and make it seem inviting and make it seem it's worth people's while to pay attention to it? So that's something that keeps us refreshing things.
Yeah, and I guess that's where One Step Closer is an example of an innovative, different way in which to get the message out and to make people feel, well, they are involving, not just making them feel involved, involving them in decisions and empowering them and getting the communication out in another way. So that's one of the big advantages of the One Step Closer. And there's a question about the One Step Closer asking how the voting campaign topics are chosen.
So initially, we've come up with lots and lots of different topics over the years, and what we have to make sure is that whatever topic we choose, it has to have a deliverable outcome. So this is not just asking people's opinions and doing a survey. This is saying we're going to deliver something, and we're offering you 3 choices or 6 choices or whatever it is, and we want you to choose what do you think is the most important thing that we're going to do. So for example, with the food menu, we went to the catering department, had the conversation with the manager, and we said, would you be willing to deliver on one of these meals if we put this campaign out? So we always have lined up at the very beginning, before we design the campaign, what we're going to deliver or what is possible to deliver. I know we tried to deliver on a green infrastructure campaign that so far has not gotten off the ground for a multitude of utility related issues. But sometimes we can't deliver on what we want to offer. So we always have to make sure that what's going to be delivered is lined up. And
just another example that I know personally is that the water fountains.
Yes.
We had a budget a limited budget to install water fountains, and where should we install those water fountains? And instead of us deliberating on it, it was put out to vote.
Yeah.
And so we knew we could install a certain number, and now the community were telling us they want it here, here, and here. So that's, I think, a nice example. And so the last question about the voting campaign topics being chosen, that was from Elodie. And she also asks, is it top-down dynamics, or is there a way for the ideas to come from a bottom-up approach? And I suppose, if you don't mind, Michele, I'll jump in a little and then let it over to you. So really it's both, but the bottom up is very important. And as Michele was pointing out on one of her early slides, there was always a bottom up voice from the Green, not always, but for some time, the Green Campus Committee, the Environmental Society. So it's allowing that, giving that voice more power. And so it is the ideas are coming from bottom up, as well as being taken on and being, I suppose, facilitated from top down as well. Michele?
Yeah, very much so. It's coming from both directions, Elodie. So the strategic plan for Trinity for 2020 to 2025 has, I think it's 8 goals listed under the sustainability section. So one of those, for example, was that Trinity had to create an action plan to significantly, and that there was a key word, significantly reduce our carbon footprint. So that was something that was handed to the Provost advisory team from the college board, if you like. And so that was the top-down approach from that perspective. So that gets into the, management level, senior management level side of things. And then the bottom-up approach is very active. Like Paula said, the Environmental Society has been around for many, many years. The Green Campus Committee has been around for less than 20 years, 15 years or so. So it's coming from both directions, and that is essential. You have to have that. If you think about any healthy ecosystem, you have to have a good hierarchy of creatures or life forms interacting with each other, and the same thing applies.
Won't say you called the college board creatures.
Don't tell anybody. I hope this isn't being recorded. Oh, whoops, it is. But in any healthy human society, you also have that diversity of perspectives and skill sets and abilities. So it's very important for us to draw on everything from the bottom-up approach as well.
Great, thanks, Michele. I think we'll draw that to an end now. There's no more questions in on the chat, and we also have a minute to our next session. So let's just take a breath for a minute, and I'll come back and we'll start up again at 11:15.